Hey everybody. I'm talking with Mind's Eye customer Irene Tracy over there in Napa Valley. Grape
Yeah, yeah.
stomping season. Um, Apparently she's not stomping any grapes though. Hopefully she's stomping some Mind's Eye microdose capsules. So, Irene, how are you today? And what's your current you know vibe right now over in Napa?
Yeah, doing good. Just got finished up this morning teaching a couple yoga classes, so just dialing into some office work over here.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you've been a Mind's Eye customer for how long?
Very, very new. I just took one kind of cycle of the Mind's Eye, a 30-day, um, yeah, initiation.
Cool. And what do you remember what protocol you were doing? Were you doing like a day on, two off, or
Yeah, I started off like really slow, just doing, I think it was one day on, one day off, one day on, 2 days off, 2 days on, 2 days off. Yeah, like just really slow integration into it. And then
hmm
eventually let up like 4 days on, 3 days off, 4 days on, 3 days off.
cool. So you stayed pretty frequent and
Yeah.
consistent with that for up to 30 days.
hmm
Amazing. So what was pre Irene like before taking Mind's Eye? Like what drew you to the product?
Yeah, I think initially the product, I know that you take a lot of care in like sourcing of your medicine and
hmm
sourcing of the adaptogenics that you add into your products. So I think that is a big thing for me just to also I'm very aware of and wanting to be more aware of where I'm sourcing my goods and things that I put into my body.
Right.
So that definitely something that drew me to it. And then just wanting to actually experience more of a I mean, I'm well, I don't want to say well experienced, but I do eat mushrooms like on my own, or I've tried my own little microdosing protocols, but nothing that was like super regimented. So this for me was my kind of my time to like really like dial it in and give myself these 30 days to have some self-discovery.
Right. So doing it with a bit more intention and
Yeah.
awareness and, not just taking the thing to take the thing or, the magic pill, the magic solution, the panacea to make all your, obstacles in life go away.
Right, right. Yeah, very much more intentional and like, learning that there's power when you can actually speak to the medicine and like set your intentions like before you take it, whether it's just that intention for your day, maybe the intention for your week, but I like internally, like you feel like when you speak to the medicine you kind of absorb more of your intention.
hmm
So that was
What's that? Yeah, let's talk about that. So when you like, you absorb more of the intention, like what's that mean for you?
for me it's like it's a little bit more of like it's in the back of your head, and so it's like when you like say, I mean, even as simple as like telling the medicine, okay, like I'm gonna I or not tell the medicine but like speak to the medicine in the sense of like, okay, today, I would really like to focus on having some mental clarity around projects that I need to get done, and like, help me feel that clarity, help me like guide me along the way, show me what I need to know. I feel like it's just kind of like speaks more. Yeah, like
Right.
I'll feel.
So I like that. So it's like speaking to the medicine so the medicine has a conversation with you, right? Or other people know that as, you know, setting an intention
Yeah.
or really making sure that you're kind of staying in that groove during your day and then paying attention to it because the medicine does somewhat force you to pay attention or hopefully,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm feeling more creative or I'm feeling more focused or I'm feeling a little bit sad right now, right?
Yeah.
Or tired or whatever it might be. And then taking the time to actually like drop into that like quiet contemplative space and just go with whatever. But, before that, if you have that real solid, intention, or I like that, the conversation with the
Hmm.
medicine, it should
Yeah.
guide you
Like
along
so
that
many times.
path.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So many times I think we just do things to do things without actually having the intention behind it. It's not something I've been like quoting. I forget who even quoted this, but it's not, it might have even been like Brene Brown. It's not like what we do, it's why we do it. So it's like,
Hmm.
why this medicine or anything really in general. It's like,
Yeah.
why, like, did you taste the chocolate or did you just eat the whole chocolate bar?
Right. I mean, it's like mindfully consuming versus like reactively. What we say at Medicine Box is, um, take a proactive approach versus the reactive one. And a lot of people are just reactive, and just the world and society that we live in, that's riddled with anxiety and materialism and schedules and toggled to our technology. And it's nice to be able to take those moments. And what I guide people on is, just as short as 5 minutes, even if it's just a 5 minute sit with yourself, or eat your food without the phone and computer in front of it. Like, we're all guilty of doing that, eating because we're like in flow with producing things. And it's like, oh, I need a snack, instead of like stepping away and actually giving ourselves that time. So those are all, um, really good facets on how, um, that conversation with the medicine can really, uh, guide you, to the place that you intend to be, hopefully. And what
Hmm.
else? So you have, it sounds like you had like a really good, frequent, and consistent, practice for yourself. And like, has that helped with, um, your personal and like professional life? I mean, you're a yoga instructor, and you do some other, work on the side and whatever that is. Um, and with friends and self, and like, how has it helped, with, connectivity, and, you know, relationships, and most
Um,
importantly, a relationship with self.
yeah, it was a big like kind of time that I was trying to spend with self, like going through some life changes and then really just wanting to like hone in on a little bit more of like my own essence and wanting to see if like microdosing would be a guide in that journey of kind of self rediscovering. Because I mean, I feel like I do quite a bit of work on myself, which very intentionally. So, um, yeah, it's kind of more of that like introspective time if you can actually take the time to sit with
Yeah.
self, which I think some people find really challenging to do. And there's so many ways that we can suppress, rather than like sometimes sit with your emotions. Like, I mean, I probably had quite a few moments where I would like my you really are feeling your emotions and like letting it go and just feeling like emotions are valid and it's okay to cry, it's okay
Yeah.
to you know, sit with yourself and be angry, at times and, like feel hurt or feel broken. Like all the
Yeah.
emotions are
It's okay.
valid. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
super okay. Like, and what you said about people are scared. I mean, most people are, because I mean, it really stems from fear, right? Like, when you really like boil it down and condense
Mhm.
it, it's just fear. And it's, acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real. And, um, it can be scary to feel, and so it's a fear of like feeling. And that conversation, I'm just going to keep anchoring that statement, is like conversation with the medicine. It's like paying attention to like what it's showing you, right?
Mhm.
Psilocybin, mushrooms, the whole biological, essence of a mushroom is rebirth and decay. I mean, it's,
Mhm.
as it's, that's what it feeds on. It's breaking down other, organic matter as it's building life, and that's what it does to us. And, um yeah, that fear of feeling, fear of seeing things, can be scary for people. So, um even, it sounds like you have like a pretty wide toolbox of, spiritual tools and, psychological tools that you work with. And this is just a nice added bonus for you. So it sounds like. And like,
Yeah.
where any like, um, so you were going through, some change and transformation, and you wanted to get introspective with that and use this as a tool, so did you get any like revelations, or some of these introspections that, are like aha moments, or was it just a nice, kind of compliment to the journey?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a compliment to the journey, but I think like there were some aha moments of just like dots that kind of felt connected and things that like, and I don't know, like I can't name it specifically at the moment, but just like, you know, I don't know, things I'm moving through or things with work or things with business that I'm like, oh, like that actually makes total sense. Like I should explore that idea more. Um, which like, yeah, and those kind of thoughts felt like they came a little easier.
Mm.
Uh, maybe that's just like the creative mind, like starting to expand. Um, yeah.
Yeah, like the creative mind, they came easier. To expand on that, I would reflect back that, the whole kind of scientific approach to psychedelics is like it dampens the default mode network, or the noise, right? I just think of it as noise. It's like the noise and the distraction of this like external world that we live in, that's just like do go 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 be, right? Like social media, and just this like digital onslaught of media at all times, and that can be super noisy, and whether we are conscious of it or not, I feel it really can affect our internal environment in a lot of ways, where it's like we're filled with the noise of
Yeah.
what's around us, where we want to access the clarity, the focus, the creativity, um but sometimes we have a hard time doing that, even though that's like a big part of us. So um finding like, I always say like, okay, you want to take this for creativity, for example, or like you said, things were coming easier. And it's like, oh, well, why? And then keep, being like Inspector Gadget of, well, I'm inspired now, or like I'm motivated, right? Like you're more motivated to like be in that flow or in that zone versus, um, the dismotivation because you're like, doom scrolling, or, whatever it might be. Like,
Rolling.
we're like, oh, I'm just going to go over to the Oxbow market and Napa and take 8 laps around and like eat food,
Spent.
that's fine too. Like, but like, is that, we need to do that. We need to always go to the Oxbow market. But then for those of you that don't know the Oxbow market, that's in Napa Valley. If you ever make it there, please go. It's amazing. Um, but yeah, all that noise is like really not um aligning with our higher self, right? Or like
Yeah.
what we really want to aspire. So I wanted to expand on that. Like the creativity is flowing because it's dampening out the noise, or the default mode network, or the DFN as we know it.
Hmm.
So and then on the flip side of that, um if you're like, oh, I want to take this for creativity or focus or clarity, right? Those are, I always say, those are good byproducts. Like you get all that stuff. That's just, don't take the thing to get that thing. It's an illusion to think that you can turn your brain on and off at will by taking like an exogenous substance. So the creativity, clarity, focus, all that stuff is the byproduct of like the deeper, maybe psychological work that's coming along.
Hmm.
As far as uh the meaning of like, why aren't you creative? Well, I'm not motivated. Why aren't you motivated? Well, I'm not inspired. Why aren't you inspired? Well, my boss. Like it usually comes down to like all external stuff, my
Mhm.
job, my boss, my relationship, my friends, like, my landlord, all the things. And it's like, well, you have the capacity to change all of that from here. Like it's not about that, it's about in here. So that's another just, almost like reverse perspective shift that um I think helps with the conversation with the medicine.
Yeah, and I think it's important to think about that like that too. It's that self-validation, you know what I mean? Like you said, it is all in here and these are the byproduct. You don't take the thing to get the thing, but that's what kind of people do, or that's what I mean, I'm sure I know I've done it, like, oh, this is gonna help me, right?
Yeah. Well, I think we all have done it, and we all
Hmm.
probably still do it because of conditioning and the way we were raised as, kids, and parents doing the best that they could. And again, that like the onslaught of media. I mean, I try to keep my phone off until like 11 to noon every day. And like between 6 a.m. and that time is just like me, just getting into that flow. And I turned it on today to text you, by the way, because I was late to the call and I was like, I don't want to do that, but I have to. And there's
It's
like 30 text messages, and I'm just like, so the distraction, tuning out that noise. So, um, yeah, before we finish off, you did 30 30 days. Are you going like taking a 30-day break, or are you going into another 60-day cycle, or will you go up to 90 days? I always suggest doing 90 days if you really want that like true transformation, especially if you're doing it with the intention that you have. And people ask, well, why 90 days? It's like, well, 90 days is a good season. It's a quarter,
Mhm.
it's 12 weeks, it's 3 months, it's a solstice to equinox, or an equinox to a solstice, or a quarter on the, in the bookkeeping, in QuickBooks. So like,
Yeah.
what's your ultimate, goal to
Yeah,
keep moving?
think um I know I ended my like 30-day probably like 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Guess this, I mean, unintentionally, I guess, like taking a break, just because I haven't had any more of the medicine to take. But I've like done some like small microdosing like on the side for myself, or I've taken more if I felt like I wanted to feel elevated. But I do like the idea of having like a consistency. So I mean, 90 days to me like sound amazing. Like I would be down.
Yeah, cool. Um, yeah, we make a 90-day bundle. It's the two packages of the introspection, and then three packages of the harmonize. And the the mind's eye harmonize does not have the microdose in it, but it has the other adaptogens and botanicals and essential nutrients. And that's meant to be taken on your days on to help amplify the microdose, and then
Yeah.
importantly on your days off too. So you stay in that kind of upward kind of flow that you're in, um,
Hmm.
as well as a microdose tracker. There's like a little workbook that we put together that you can
Oh, nice.
you can upload into your iPad or print it out. I always like to say, give yourself the an analog experience in a digital world.
Yeah.
As everything's so digitized, it's like, oh, here's an app to track everything's data, and put it on your Apple Watch. And it's like, well, we're trying to maybe get away from that a little bit. It's counterintuitive because everything is digital,
Can
but yeah, so that's the analog experience. So that's the 90-day. And then yeah, and if you're interested uh in on the solstice, we're starting a 12-week masterclass, and I'll have a functional medicine doctor, um, ethnobotanist, a psychedelic integration coach, and a psychotherapist and psycho functional psychology practitioner conducting, 3 weeks each, and that'll be fun because
Yeah.
you'll be
Wow.
you'll be
Amazing.
taking the you'll be taking the medicine with the course,
Hmm.
or the journey. I'm not really calling it a course. I don't like that word, but
Yeah.
more of the journey. So you're like doing these exercises and you're getting the knowledge and the support. So stay tuned for that. We'll throw an
Cool.
email out, and
Yeah, I think having like a support, I don't know, a little bit of like a guidance. I know for people who are maybe newer to microdosing or newer to psilocybin in general, of course, there's all the questions. How am I going to feel? What is it going to do to me? So having like a little bit of that, like container that you feel held in, I
yeah,
feel like important.
yeah. I mean, that's our mission or vision is equal parts
Mhm.
medicine and mentorship. So I think that's actually talk about that real quick, and then we'll end. Is like the having that, you know, for lack of a better word, coach or guide or mentor or someone, the community support or someone
Right.
that's supporting you through the journey because things come up, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I did it through. I had a mentor, I guess, or a coach, a guide to kind of just work me through the 30-day process, which was more or less like a Friday check-in. So throughout the 4 weeks, there was just like a Friday check-in over Voxer, and just wanting to know how the journey's going. Is there anything that's come up for you? Um, how is the met? How are you sitting with your intentions? So it's kind of nice that you could have like someone else also like kind of back there supporting you, so
Yeah.
you're not like this is a completely solo journey, even though it is really kind of your own personal journey. But it's like
Yeah.
there's just like you're doing all right.
Yeah. It's okay. Right. It's okay to feel.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
want
was
to
doing that,
over.
guy,
Yeah,
guiding
but
someone, and she's like, I don't know if I like it. Like I cried, and I was like, okay. She's like, but I don't cry. I go, well, apparently you do because
yeah,
you cried,
yeah,
like, and she had lost both her parents. They were like my age, 42 and 43. And it's probably just stuff she just never processed,
right.
and like just shut down, wall. I'm stoic. I don't show. And that can be scary. It's like, I've never cried, but now I'm crying. And it's like, I'm like, just go with it. So it's nice to have that. I call it just the perspective shift, right? It's like the mirror to go. So
Yeah, having someone there who can like guide you through it, like it's okay.
it's okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
the journey is
Awesome.
completely wild.
Yeah. Well, the human experience, we're
Yeah.
all we're all interconnected, whether we know it or like it or not. So,
Mhm.
well, awesome. Irene, thank you so much for joining us today and for being a great customer of Mind's Eye and for doing the work to better yourself and be a better part of humanity. So,
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for having me.
you bet.
Yeah.